Now, the second and last day of the National Convention gets underway at UNISA this morning. This comes after delegates yesterday discussed various themes in at least 8 dialogue labs. Part of the agenda for today's proceedings is to elect a steering committee that will lead the strategic direction of the over 13,000 dialogues set to take place countrywide. Newzroom Africa's senior politics reporter Ziyanda Ngcobo is in the capital for us this morning and is joining us live. Ziyanda, a very good morning to you. So we saw the Deputy President arriving just moments ago. Just talk to us about the atmosphere and the sentiments of people that will be participating in today's dialogues.
Well, the energy is high, Katleho. Lots of conversations taking place here yesterday, robust, intense. One of my guests earlier said, well, I am standing between the Union buildings and the Fort Trekker monument, so nothing was going to be balanced. There was always bound to be some tension. And I suppose with all the scenes that we saw from both the chaos and the fight to have their voices heard on that stage from the Khoisan group, it's clear that there is an energy and a yearning to have this discussion, although the criticism is still lingering in the air about the inclusivity and the number of voices that are represented in this gathering. Of course, the organizers maintaining that this was to kickstart the process, and it's over to South Africans now to participate and have their voices heard. And one such grouping is the South African the community of faith-based fraternals. You represent 20,000 churches. Just tell us how this grouping came together and how you organize yourselves as a faith-based organization.
Well, it all started during the COVID time,
yeah.
And when the churches were just closed haphazardly. And with that struggle, we immediately had to think out of the box, how to do church. And immediately, once we were locked into our homes, we started helping the churches. And we started teaching the churches how to do technology, because most of the churches in the townships and that didn't know technology, didn't know how to do it. So we immediately started with that. And then, a couple of weeks later, we started with disaster relief. And we got involved in that, into the communities, food, distributed over 300 million rands worth of food. And that's how SACOF came to be, where we surpass just theological differences, but we see what is the underlying needs we have as a community. And I think that has grown now, it's growing into the political sphere as well, where we need to influence different spheres, but that's where it started. Started with a few churches, and it's growing still weekly. It's growing, and we've had a whole bunch of federations and denominations join us as well. And we've grown now to over 20,000.
So it sounds like you already have the infrastructure there, which will be very important with the rollout of the dialogues in communities, because that has been the concern. Just take me through the networks that you have. You've spoken about over 300 billion rands worth of food that you were able to distribute during the COVID-19 pandemic. How can the churches be used as platforms for dialogues without, in a way, moving away from your core, whichever denomination you may be subscribing to?
Well, first of all, it's the trust the church has within the community, which unfortunately the government doesn't recognize fully. So we already have the trust. Now we have trust in communities where there are gangs. I know in the one community, they burnt down 2 government trucks, before they brought us in, and then we fed the whole community. Why? Because we already have trust. We sit down, the gangs know us, the people know us, the community knows us, and they trust our intentions. So we already have that platform of trust, and that's in most, I'd say 99% of the communities. We're in every squatter camp, we're in the rural areas, in the villages, and then of course in the plush areas and stuff. Obviously we need the financing to do what we need to do. So we have the trust of the community. Then, the facilities. So, being able to take this discussion, obviously we have buildings and churches available. In some of the squatter camps, we have squatted places where the guys can meet. So that's the second thing we have is the facilities to be able to facilitate the dialogue, within these communities. And then thirdly, being able to identify, because you mentioned very crucial point, is that there's some people that don't feel yet they're part.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we've got 1,000, but it's like maybe elitist or known. You understand? How do we take this dialogue out? But that's the discussions we're having here. How do we do this? And as SACOF, obviously, we have that ability to bring the right people to the party because we already work with them in the community.
Do you trust the government? Do you trust that because there's a trust deficit between citizens and the government, that your own credibility won't be affected? Not saying that, of course, you shouldn't be part of an important conversation, but with such a huge trust deficit, do you trust that the government will take all the things that you'll be doing as SACOF across the board and collate it and implement? The issues that we have in South Africa are not about the willingness sometimes, it's about the implementation.
Yes. I think there's a low trust at the moment, and that is not. We speak, and they say, the voice of the church. Where is the voice? There's a voice. We're speaking, but it's as if no one is listening, and that's why I'm saying, I hope at the end of the 12 months that we'll still have a country at the end of the dialogue to implement the issues, because we need action now.
Yes,
we need implementation now. The divide between vision and implementation and the capacity to execute. So I think there's certain mindsets. I don't want to say I don't want to say they're doing it's on purpose. For me it's more or negligence. It's more, the guys don't know how to do it. So from our point of view, being able, the capacity to implement, and then, having the faith that they are going to do it. So just take, for example, the biggest problem we have is debt. Debt at the moment, we're 76.9% of GDP, coming from 20-30%, 10 years ago. And then we're talking about this year ending with a 77.5%. It means most of the money we get in, we're paying on interest on loans.
Yes.
So the issue is, we're looking at short-term relief, so we borrow more money, but there's long-term implications where we need to maybe carry the pain now and make sure that we get into a healthy situation within the government.
Pastor Bert Pretorius, thank you for your time. He is from a SACOF Katlego. He is part of the South African community of faith-based fraternals, and of course the churches are going to play a critical role in actually bringing together communities. They're able to penetrate different spaces, and they're able to really deal with the issues that are bedeviling our communities. And so after Pastor Bert Pretorius, I'm also going to bring in now a member of the Eminent Persons Group, Ngcobo. She is a storyteller. She is someone who has been identified by President Cyril Ramaphosa to come and lead certain processes and instill that kind of confidence. And of course, there are still questions around the way in which this dialogue, or the last day at least, has been conducted insofar as, the inclusivity aspect is concerned. We know, as we've heard from Pastor Bert Pretorius, that they also still haven't quite trusted the government, and they understand that there's a trust deficit, and they'll have to deal with some of the mindset, challenges that they have been faced with. And so it's on that note that I bring in, Ngcobo to come and speak to us here on Newzroom Afrika. Thank you so much for joining us. If you could just grab your microphone. As you would say, it's been quite the journey.
Yeah.
Quite the week. And you've been identified as an eminent person. I want to start off here. Someone said to me, after the president announced the Eminent Persons Group, to say, but even that on its own, what's the need for an Eminent Persons Group? For someone who still doesn't understand your role and why someone like Ngcobo must be one of the 31 identified people. What have you been doing?
Ngiyabonga kakhulu. Today is not about Tinganegwane. It's not about once upon a time. It's very, very serious. Yesterday as well. And being part of the eminent persons groups, we've been asked to be there as people who are ambassadors for this process, people who are going to be selected to play our role in the communities we come from, to make sure as well that we keep on talking to each other, to monitor what is going on in those different communities. It's a big country, South Africa. I think even those 31 people are too few, South Africa. And the topics are so diverse and so vast. And the big thing that's going to hit us hard is the fact that it is good to talk, it's good to listen, but to talk about action. I always talk about these twins, you know,
yes.
Ulalelani, no kulumani. When they listen and then they talk, and then at some point they must come together, let there be action. I think our job as well is going to be for us to push for that action, because there are short-term, manageable goals that we can reach,
like
that
what?
are medium terms. Like what? For instance, the element of the abuse of children and women.
Yes.
It's just, they can't wait. It was only in the 12 months. It's an urgent matter that the country has to resolve. Which one's one?
Can I jump in there? It's been urgent for many years. There was a gender-based violence summit in 2018 where we saw those harrowing scenes where that victim showed us their scars. It's 2025. It was urgent then. Why would it be even more urgent now because of a national convention or national dialogue? That's what South Africans are asking.
It is a very, very important thing, a question to ask, because we are good at saying we're setting goals and then we don't follow them.
Don't implement.
So that's one of the things we're going to be bugging Mr. President about, because he consciously asked us to be there, to be advising him, to be following up. We're going to bug him like nobody's business. So we are hoping that also working in those communities, people are going to start setting up civic society groups and saying, whether you're looking at education or the creative arts and heritage, because the fiber of society, when the fiber of society falls apart and tears, when your blanket is got many holes, it's like our blanket as South Africans, that social fabric has got so many holes, it's torn in different places, you don't know where to mend, where not to mend. So the heritage, culture, and the systems of doing things from our ancestral heritage to where we are today, we've got to make sure we in the creative arts, we're busy about that. We are not joking, because people are looking at everything that is wrong in society and forget the sense of self, the identity, the culture, the respect, the taking of advantage of saying singakwazi ukuzenzela ovuka uzenzele. We're going to fight for that as well.
Well, you could argue that there are already people who are taking it into their own hands. Bayavuka, bayazenzela. Whether you're talking maybe those who are now blocking foreign nationals in hospital, they believe bayavuka, bayazenzela. You know, the social compact, there are key issues. Trust deficits between South Africans and the government, which is why some would say your credibility might come into question there, because in 2022 the president announced a social compact. That has not happened. It's 2025. But back to your point about vukuzenzela, there are many ways in which people are doing that, but still we might not have a country by the time this process is done. That's what just Pastor Bert Pretorius also intimated.
I think we can't afford anymore to say what happened in 2022, 2023, keep on promising and promising. People are just not believing anymore. South Africa, people are angry.
Even
these
with
conversations are taking place all over. Even before we came to Pretoria, people were talking, saying, we need support from the government, we need protection from the police, we need the schools to be taken care of, the medicine in the clinics. There is so much that is wrong in the spaces where we are operating. So I think whether the eminent persons group, I don't know where this term came from, he cooked it up, yes. But I'm saying whether we are part of this process or not, I'm always a nation builder. The struggle is never over. So I hope many of us who are in this dialogue understand that the struggle is never over. There's work to be done, and I think Bambisana working and bringing all of those organizations who are doing it for them. Let's find a way of holding each other's hands and say we can do this together, because individuals cannot do this thing.
All right. So thank you so much. That's Ngcobo. She's one of the eminent persons, part of the 31 people identified led by President Cyril Ramaphosa to be almost at play an overarching role as these dialogues get rolled out. Plenty of issues that have already been unpacked here, but the question still remains, will there be action that is taken? And that's all that South Africans continue to talk about, at least the one thing that they agree on at this stage.